is a morning as lovely as a morning can be. The cedar trees are fat with pollen. The sky is thick with clouds. Flocks of cedar waxwings are shrieking their high-pitched songs that we registered somewhere just behind the eyeballs as they flit from one chinaberry tree to the other, getting drunk on the fermented fruits. This is life in Central Texas in late January, and this is as lovely a morning as morning can be. And here there is potential for joy. All that is required is that we gather together and take the time to look at and listen to one another as closely as we yearn to be seen and heard our very selves. And then we will realize the potential that is promised by this lovely morning. Come and let us worship together. I know I don't have to remind you that our children are so beautiful, but it's easier to see when they're all up here together.
Let us end our time of meditation by saying together the Buddhist metta prayer or metta meditation. I'll say a line and you say it after me if you choose to. The first time through, we say this for ourselves. May I be free from danger. May I be mentally happy. May I be physically happy. May I have ease of well-being. The second time we say this for someone we love. May you be free from danger. May you be mentally happy. May you be physically happy. May you have ease of well-being. The third time, as a spiritual stretch, we say this for someone against whom we have a resentment. May you be free from danger. May you be mentally happy. May you be physically happy. May you have ease of well-being. May it be so. I don't know how many of you ever saw that classic movie from the turn of the century called The Matrix. In it, Keanu Reeves plays a young computer hacker named Neo who wakes up to the reality of the Matrix, its vast virtual reality grid that feeds off of human energy. And human beings are kept asleep in embryonic egg-shaped rooms, and really a video of their life is playing in their head. And the first message that Neo gets from the deeper reality is, "Wake up, Neo." In the movie, Neo wakes up to the fact of the illusion of the life that he's been living and to glimpsing the more deep, more actual reality of the world the way it is. And as he grows into this realization that the things that he's been thinking were real are in fact illusions, he gets this wonderful ability to realize that the bullets coming at him are not real, and he can move through the bullets and they don't hit him because he understands that they're not real. This is the first of a series of sermons on the Eightfold Path of Buddhism. And I want to talk to you about the first step of the path. This path, really, to call it a step is not actually correct, because it's not like stepping stones, not like 8 stepping stones you have to step on. You step on this one, check. You step on that one, check. Then the next one. It's more like a braided path. They're all in play at the same time. It's like having a handful of 8 playing cards, and sometimes you're playing 1 and sometimes 2 at the same time. And the combinations of the Eightfold Path are things that you actually practice in your life. I like the Eightfold Path of Buddhism partly because it's very relaxing to me that Buddhism doesn't say you have to believe. It just says you don't have to believe, just try it and see if it works. I think that's very practical. And so why would you even do the Eightfold Path? Well, the Eightfold Path is there in order to let you escape from suffering and feel freer, be freer. Escape from illusion and see the reality. And so if you're not suffering, you don't need it. The first of the Eightfold Path is right understanding. And that means you have to get it. You have to wake up and understand how things are. So sometimes in your life, you get little wake-up messages, sometimes in Lawrence Fishburne's voice. Wake up. And sometimes you get nonverbal messages, just a little jerk from the universe. You get a little glimpse of how things are. You get a little sense of the way things work, and you get a sense that some people make their lives more difficult for themselves by the way they respond to what happens to them. And you get a sense that there is disquietude lurking at the corners of many people's lives, and that much of our energy is spent on anxiety and fear and hope. And you get a sense that fear of what might happen, or hope for security or a good position in the world, those things drive people. And once, I called this sermon Abandon Hope and Fear, not because either one of them is bad, but because they keep you from being in the moment. And what Buddhism is all about is being in the moment and staying, rather than trying to escape this bad feeling or that uncomfortable feeling by hoping for the future or fearing what might come or regretting what's in the past. Just to stay, to be in the moment and stay is very, very, very difficult. And so sometimes you hear Lawrence Fishburne saying in your head, wake up, there's satisfaction somewhere, let's go find it. Let's go find it. Let's try not to make things worse. So when you start with this realization, and most of you have had this already, you realize how much of your life is spent worrying, and how much of your good energy goes down that hole of thinking, is this going to turn out all right? Do I sound stupid? Are these people liking me? Are they going to have a good time at my party? Do they notice that I can't dance? Are they wondering, am I going to end up a bag lady? Do I have enough money? I have a friend who's haunted, and this drives his life. He's haunted by a vision of his own funeral, where people are milling around in the church or in the funeral home going, he was a good fellow. It's a shame he just never made anything of himself. Moment after moment for most people is filled with hope or fear. And it's a roller coaster. Because even when things are going great, you're worrying that won't last very long. And as the great poet John Prine said, Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. It's a half an inch of water and you think you're going to drown. But that's the way that the world goes round. So why is it so up and down? All right. Basically, in life, things happen. You've noticed that. Things happen, and there's pain. There's actual pain. But then you have your thoughts about the things that happen, and your interpretations of the things that happen, and you start telling yourself stories about what's happening. And that's where the suffering comes in. You can have pain, but you don't have to suffer over your pain unless you're telling yourself stories about it, like, this is never going to end, or this shouldn't be happening. My favorite. It's like, okay, so it shouldn't be happening, but it is. So is there a sane reason to hold on to that thought, that this shouldn't be happening? Are you giving yourself more suffering than you need to have? People should be nicer. Well, yeah, but people are what they are, and what's happening is happening. So can you let go of people should be nicer and just deal with what's actually there? You think, what's happening here? This is a punishment for something I did. I didn't eat enough quinoa. That's why this is happening. Or you just think, my life is unfair, or I'm unlucky, or I'm unblessed. And Buddhism teaches that all these are just thoughts about what's happening, and that the roller coaster emotions that you're giving yourself by your thoughts are not as real as what just happened. And even that is not as real as who you are and what the situation is, which is that you have pain, and then you have thoughts about the pain, and then you have stories about your thoughts about the pain, and most of the suffering is contained in the thoughts that you're having and the stories that you're telling yourself about what's happening. So, how do you stop doing that? How do you start seeing? How do you start waking up? You do the practice of the Eightfold Path. And here are the 8 parts of the Eightfold Path. Right understanding, which is what we're talking about this morning, getting it. Right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So all of those are the elements of the Eightfold Path. And so the first one is getting it, understanding the way things are, and that you suffer because you have attachment, you have this idea to how things should go. You have an idea of how things should go, and when they don't go that way, you make up stories about why they're not going that way. And you crave, and you cling, and you hope, and you fear. Like, you have an interview. You hope the interview is going to go well. You worry. Am I wearing the right thing? Am I going to say the right thing? Do I look right? Am I right for this job? Do I even want this job? Am I going to like them? Are they going to like me? What questions do I have to ask them? What if I get the job? And if you do get the job, you think, oh, I fooled them. What if they find out? What if I don't do the job right? What if I lose the job? That's going to be so embarrassing. And if you don't get the job, you think, why not? What did I do to make them not like me? What did I say that was stupid? I don't like them anyway. Or someone you love is drinking again or using again, and you think, it's my fault. They're drinking again, and it means they don't love me enough to put it down. They don't love me enough. If they really cared, they wouldn't be doing that. That's your interpretation, and so you're suffering when what's really happening is they're taking a drink. That's what's really happening. But your stories about what's happening are making you suffer. And so in your thoughts is a way that you wish things would go, and then you have hope about how things could go or fear about how things might go, and all of those things are causing suffering. And if you took your life and your brain, and if you could clear out all the anxiety about what you've done, what you might do, what you might not do, what other people might do to you, what they have done to you, if you took all the anxiety and dread out of it, your mind would be this marvelously empty and useful organ. And you could probably get more done. That's how I think, but I'm a firstborn raised Presbyterian, so get more done is good for me. And when you're anxious about these things, you just miss a lot of your life. You don't notice things because you're preoccupied with your anxiety. You don't enjoy your friends because you're anxious. You don't enjoy your family. You don't enjoy the dinner party. You don't enjoy, and you're not fully present. You can't even be with somebody else who's suffering because you're making up, your mind is going mad thinking of all the things you might say to them about their suffering, or what if you were suffering in that way? And it's very busy in there. And so the practice is all about trying over and over again to make it clearer in there, to let go of the dread, the anxiety, the hope, the fear, all of that, just to be present for this moment of your life and to stay with it. Does that make sense? Okay. So, you get this wake-up message. You don't have to suffer over this. Wake up. You're making this worse than it has to be. Wake up. If you calm and you focus your mind, you could see more clearly. Okay. So part of Buddhist practice, of course, as you all know, is being quiet and meditating. There are lots and lots of different ways to do it. Every different school has its own way. Fortunately, most Buddhist schools don't teach that the ones who are not them are going to hell. But you meditate in order to give your mind a chance to see what's really happening. You meditate in order to practice watching your thinking. You just watch your thinking. You're sitting there, you're trying to count your breaths. Some people, just at a minimum, may do 10 deep breaths 5 times a day. My same friend who worried that the people were going to shake their head at his funeral and say it's a shame he never made anything of himself, he has this list of things he does every day. And he wrote a story once about how he worried about poking his eye out, lunging for the pen to check off deep breathing. He said that would be embarrassing. So you make your mind quiet and you pay attention to your breathing because your mind wants to pay attention to something, and you watch your thinking, and you can sometimes, after some amount of practice, get some glimpse of the stories you're telling yourself about your life. And you get some sense that there are things that happen, and what happens, happens. And what you do is what you do. And I'm saying very deep things, and they sound very ridiculously simple. But there are lots of people who find out I'm a writer, and they go, I'm a writer too. At least I haven't written anything, but I have something in me, and I want to write it. And I'm like, I understand. And they say, how do you write? Because I can't write because I just don't have a room of my own, or I don't have blocks of time to use for writing, or I don't have the right computer software, or I have to write with a fountain pen and it's empty right now. And or I just have little children and they're always bothering me. I have a job, I have 3 jobs. I can't, that's why I don't write. And the Buddhists would say, and I try not to say it because it's obnoxious, I know why you're not writing. It's because you're not writing. The way to eat more vegetables is to eat more vegetables. There's really nothing else to it. The way to write is to... Thank you. At times in the past, I have been unwise enough to say to someone, I think you might need to become unattached to the outcome. Being unattached to outcomes is a Buddhist teaching, which is very, very wise, but it's better if you come up with it yourself or read it in a book than if you say it to somebody. You know, when I was a beginning writer, I used to mail out my pieces all the time to different magazines and publications, etc. And then they would write back and tell me, no, they weren't going to publish it. And I had this one envelope one time that was a self-stick envelope, and it had this thing that you peeled off in order to expose the stickum stuff. And on it was printed, detach before mailing. I thought that was so wise, and so I put it up on my bulletin board so that I could detach from the outcome before mailing it off. But when you say to someone, in this situation, you're suffering because you're so attached to your idea of how it should happen, and they say, almost invariably, so you want me not to care? No. I don't want you not to care. But there's something in us that believes that caring means that you rise and fall according to this outcome. Or that if your partner or your child or your parent is drinking again, that you are going to have bad days until they can stop drinking. If they have a good day, then you can have a good day. And if they have a bad day, then you have a bad day. And that is too attached. You're not helping them. Does that make any sense? And so if you can find a way to care, I care. And yet I am not going to be unhappy with you if I don't have to be. I see that you're unhappy, and I'm sorry that you are. But if I'm not unhappy with you, it doesn't mean I don't care. There's a way of caring while still holding the outcome lightly. And when you pay attention to your breathing for quiet moments, it helps you have more room between the moments of your life. Somehow it gives you more air space to not feel that you're being part of an avalanche, that things are all coming at you at the same time. You have room to notice what's happening, and you have the understanding to watch your own thoughts about what's happening. And I like this spiritual path because it does not attempt to give meaning to suffering, in that it doesn't say suffering is redemptive and your suffering is making you a better person somehow, or cleansing your soul through. I don't believe that. And it's comforting to see a spiritual path that says, no, you probably want to stop suffering, and that's pretty normal, so here's how to do it. So the other part of getting it means that you take ownership of your actions, and that's the law of karma. And I'm going to speed through this because we're at the end of our time. But karma just says you are the owner of your actions. You can't blame it on anybody else because you do what you do and you don't do what you don't do. That's the basic of it. You do what you do, you don't do what you don't do, and you live downstream from your actions. So if your actions are toxic, it's like living downstream from a hog farm, and what the effluvia comes down the stream and affects your life. Okay. Let me end with a story that this is a visual that I hold in my mind when I'm talking about this kind of stuff, about letting go. And there is a lovely friend of mine whose mother-in-law lives in the mountains of North Carolina, and she has a very interesting way of seeing the world, this mother-in-law. And a story from her life goes as follows. She's in the drive-through lane of the bank, and she's completed her deposit, and the bank's pin that came to her through the pneumatic tube has fallen down under her seat. And she is the kind of person that does not want to take somebody else's pen, and so she's trying to get it. But as every time she gets her hand around the pen, she can't then pull her hand out from under the seat. The only way she can pull her hand out is by doing this, but she can't do this and bring the pen back up. And so she's having a running commentary because she's a friendly person and an extrovert. So she's doing everything out loud like extroverts do. And she's saying to the teller, I'm trying to get the pen, but I just can't get the pen because every time I get the pen, I just grab hold of it and then I can't get my hand out because I'm going to have to do this with my hand and I can't do this with my hand because I got the pen in it and I got to get you back your pen. And anyway, the teller is aware that the cars are piling up behind her. And she's saying, ma'am, take the pen. Just take the pen. It's fine. Oh, no, I couldn't do that. I'm going to get it just here in a minute. I'm going to get this pen for you and let go. Wake up. Let go. Just a little glimpse of the way things are.